Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee, and I'm here with another Raw Contact Volume 2 session. It has been 9 months since I have had one of these sessions come out. I cannot believe that it's been that long. But as we all know, life happens, and things have changed over the last 9 months, and there has been new developments in my life. If you follow me on Twitch or in Discord, then you know all about it. But lots of changes have happened in my life since the last time that we have put out one of these videos. If you're just coming across the Raw Contact information for the very first time, this is probably not the place to start, although you're welcome to watch it. If you want to start from the beginning, I have a Raw Contact Volume 1 series where I go through all of the sessions of the book. And if you want to start in the middle, I would recommend going back and watching the Raw Contact Volume 2 recap and intro, which I can put in the description box below, so that you can learn a little bit more about how I got involved with Raw and the Raw Contact and the teachings of the Law of One, and how I got here to where I feel the need to read every session of this 2-part gigantic book series to the YouTube world. It's a lot, y'all. Before we get started on session 63, I just want to share a little bit of something that I listened to on Audible recently. I just finished it yesterday. It is Edgar Cayce on the Lost City of Atlantis by Vincent Ortegon. I won't go into what I thought about the whole entire book because I would like to do a woo-woo book review for that in the future. But what I wanted to share about that within this Raw Contact information, if you're not familiar with Edgar Cayce, he was referred to as the sleeping prophet. He would go to sleep, which I think was really just going into a deep, deep trance. He was able to answer information about a variety of topics. One of those things that he did was what he called life readings, which was going into people's past life information to let them know about themselves and lives that they've had at other times. So what came about over the course of the time that he was doing these life readings for people, which a lot of this is taking place in the 1930s, which is, 90 years ago, is that many people, like 50% of the people that he did these life readings for, had lives in Atlantis, which you can believe in Atlantis or not believe in Atlantis. Scientifically and archaeologically, we haven't found it yet. But in the woo-woo world, I think that it has been proven metaphysically that it was a place that existed. And I am a firm believer that it existed. But anyway, what I wanted to share about the Raw Contact information in regards to Edgar Cayce's life readings about Atlantis is that over and over and over and over again, within the actual words that came out of Edgar Cayce's mouth about these life readings that took place in Atlantis, he refers to the children of the Law of One. And I was a little bit baffled and confused and surprised because it's been a couple of years since Raw and the teachings of the Law of One have come into my life. And to know that the people that were doing this work was taking place in the 1980s, and Edgar Cayce is talking about the Law of One in the 1930s, and they're both channeled information, is really, to me, says a lot. Now, skeptics could say, well, what if the Raw people just knew about Edgar Cayce's readings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. It's very highly possible that that's true. But the correlation between the two is pretty amazing, I think. So, let's get started with the Raw Contact, the Teachings of the Law of One, Volume 2, Session 63. So I've got to be honest, it's been such a long time since I read this session. It's going to be like I'm reading it all over again for the first time. Over the course of the last probably 10, 11 months, I have read this much more of the Raw Contact, Volume 2. I'm currently on session 87. But you can see I still have a long way to go. I did not make it through this book nearly as fast as Volume 1, and obviously I've not made it through making videos for this book as fast as Volume 1. But I am a firm believer in divine timing, and the things come out when they're meant to come out, and I don't put a lot of pressure on myself when it's not working out or it doesn't feel like it's the right time. So today feels like the right time to continue with our sessions, and hopefully they won't take 9 months in between each one, or else we'll be here forever, literally doing this forever. Session 63 takes place on July 18th, 1981, which today that I'm recording this is July 5th, 2025. So that's interesting that they're closely related in dates-wise. And 1981 is the year I was born, but I won't be born for another month and 2 days. No, month and 4 days. Sorry, math is hard. And off we go. Could you give an indication of the condition of the instrument? Carla, the person who's channeling, is referred to as the instrument. And she's always got a lot of problems going on physically. So they're always asking about her condition, and they're always asking what they can do to improve her condition. And this is what Ra says on July 18th of 1981. The instrument's vital energies are at the distortion, which is normal for this mind-body-spirit complex. The body complex is distorted due to physical attack in the area of kidneys and urinary tract. There is also distortion continuing due to the distortion called arthritis. So the poor woman has arthritis, kidneys and urinary issues, and it's all because of a psychic attack that's been happening to them a lot because they're trying to get this information. You may expect this psychic attack to be constant, as this instrument has been under observation by negatively oriented force for some time, because they're doing this work. So then Dawn, who's the person who asked the question, says, was the original problem with the kidneys some 25 years ago caused by a psychic attack? And there's a footnote here. It says there is a reference to a near-death experience Carla had at the age of 13 years old. From session 106, question 4. I don't remember what that was. That was a long time ago that I read that. Ross says this is only partially correct. There were psychic attack components to the death of this body at that space-time. However, the guiding vibratory complex in this event was the will of the instrument. This instrument desired to leave this plane of existence as it did not feel it could be of service. And I put a little frowny face there because that's so sad. 13, Carla was like, I just don't even want to be here anymore. But a lot of teenagers go through that feeling, and many teenagers or that are not even really teenagers yet. That is a very common thing throughout our, I don't know the statistics of it throughout history, the history of humanity, but within our more modern times, that's a pretty common thing. I know that I had the same thing kind of happen to me, and I'm sure that Some of you that are listening might have had the same kind of feelings when you're around that age. The next question is, you were saying that the instrument itself then created the kidney problem at this time? Ross says the instrument's desire to leave this density lowered the defenses of an already predisposed weak body complex, and an allergic reaction was so intensified as to cause the complications which distorted the body complex towards unviability. The will of the instrument, when it found that there was indeed work to be done in service, was again the guiding factor, or complex of vibratory patterns, which kept the body complex from surrendering to dissolution of the ties which cause the vitality of life. So Carla wants to die, weakens her body that's already weak, allergic reaction happens, there's a little bit of a psychic attack issue that goes on, but then she's like, no, she changes her mind. I don't want to go. There is work that I can do, which is a good damn thing, or else we wouldn't have this. So thank you, Carla, for realizing that you were important in the world. Next question. Is the necessity for the instrument to go to the bathroom several times before a session due to the psychic attack? That's an interesting question. How many times was poor Carla having to pee before having to go do a channeling session? I can say I've never had that problem. In general, this is incorrect. The instrument is eliminating from the body complex the distortion leavings of the material which we use for contact. This occurs variably, sometimes beginning before contact. Other workings, this occurs after the contact. Well, that is very interesting. Now I'd have to pay attention to how many times I have to pee when I do channeling work, because because Ross talking about there's material that they use for contact. So she's getting rid of it. That's really weird. In this particular working, this entity is experiencing aforementioned difficulties causing the intensification of that particular distortion or condition. Look at how many spaces are in between these words. Was that on purpose? Or was that a typo? I don't know if I realized that when I read this the first time. Next question. I know that you've already answered this question, but I feel it's my duty now to ask it each time in case there's some new development. And that is there anything we can do? At least Don's like, I've asked this question every time. You always give us the same answer, but you know what? My love for Carla is so strong. I'm going to ask it every time. But he twisted it a little bit this time. Is there anything we can do that we aren't doing to lessen the effects of the psychic attack upon the instrument? Ross says, continue in love and praise and thanksgiving to the Creator. Examine previous material. Don, we already told you a lot of things already. Love is the great protector. I love that. Could you give a definition of vital energy? That's an excellent question, Don. Thank you for asking. Vital energy is the complex of energy levels of mind, body, and spirit. Unlike physical energy, it requires the integrated complexes vibrating in a useful manner. The faculty of will can, to a variable extent, replace missing vital energy. And this has occurred in past workings as you measure time in this instrument. This is not recommended. Oh, interesting. At this time, however, the vital energies are well nourished in mind and spirit, although the physical energy level is in of itself low at this time. So it's saying that just through your pure will, you can be like, I'm going to do this. But that's not recommended. Like, you can give yourself more vital energy just through your sheer will. But Ra's like, hey, maybe don't do that. Would I be correct in guessing that vital energy is a function of the awareness or bias of the entity with respect to its polarity or general unity with the creator creation? It's a hell of a question, Don. Ra says, in a non-specific sense, we may affirm the correctness of your statement. The vital energy may be seen to be that deep love of life or life experiences, such as the beauty of creation and the appreciation of other selves, and the distortions of your co-creators making which are of beauty. So, using the love of beauty, the love and appreciation of others, those things are helping to provide vital energy for Carla. That's kind of cool. Without this vital energy, the least distorted physical complex will fail and perish. Good Lord. With this love or vital energy or elan, which means energy, style, or an enthusiasm, the entity may continue through the physical complex, though the physical complex is greatly distorted. So, I mean, that's a pretty harsh, tough statement to hear there. Without this vital energy, the least distorted physical complex would fail and perish. The body would cease to be. Dang. Don asks, from last session, I would like to continue with a few questions about the fact that in fourth density, red, orange, and green energies will be activated, yellow, blue, etc. being in potentiation. Right now, you say we have green energies activated. They have been activated for the last 45 years. I'm wondering about the transition through this period so that the green is totally activated and the yellow is in potentiation. What will we lose as the yellow goes from activation into potentiation, and what will we gain as the green comes into total activation, and what is the process? So think about those colors as our chakras and what the chakras represent. Green is the heart. Yellow is the will. It is misleading to speak of gains and losses when dealing with the subject of the cycles ending and the green ray cycle beginning upon your sphere. It is to be kept in the forefront of the faculties of intelligence that there is one creation in which there is no loss. There are progressive cycles for experiential use by entities. We may now address your query. So Ra's like, hey buddy, there's no such thing as loss because it's all part of one creation, whether it's good or whether we consider it to be good or bad or gain or loss. It's not actually. It's just experience. That's hard for us humans to wrap our minds around sometimes. As the green ray cycle, or the density of love and understanding, begins to take shape, the yellow ray plane on Earth, which you now enjoy in your dance, will cease to be inhabited for some period of your space-time, as the space-time necessary for fourth density entities to learn their ability to shield their density from that third is learned. After this period, there will come a time when third density may again cycle on the yellow ray sphere. So this has been something that I've heard many different things about from many different people who are part of the spiritual community on what's going to happen to us during the shift. The shift is like when we're going up to the next level. And this is something that is always a little frustrating to me because people are always talking about it being fifth density. We're going to be 5D. Fifth density, 5D. That's like all I keep hearing. But in the raw material, we're not moving to 5D. You can't skip a level. We're not jumping. You're going to 4. It's 4D. It's the fourth density. It's the fourth dimension, not the fifth. How can you skip a whole level? Because you're essentially moving through those levels of what the chakras represent. So we've been living in the yellow third chakra, which then we could get into another argument about how many chakras there are. But think about it as there's one chakra for each color of the rainbow, of our light spectrum, of which we can see and break apart with our prism. And those main 7 chakras are the ones that Ra talks about. So I know there's the soul star and the earth star and all these other chakras that people talk about, but that's not what Ra is talking about. Ra is just talking about the 7 main ones. So he's saying that we've been in the 3rd density, 3rd chakra energy, yellow energy, will energy, for all of this, for such a long time, for like, you know, the whole time of humanity. We had an opportunity to move up to 4th density a long time ago, but we didn't meet the criteria because we couldn't get our shit together. And now we're at a point where we can move up to the 4th density again, but once again, we're having a real hard time getting our shit together. So can we not miss the boat this time is what I'm trying to say. And then, but that's the shift that everybody keeps talking about, the shift. The Earth is going to shift from being in 3D to 4D, but everybody that's talking about is talking about the same thing, whether they say 4D or 5D, whatever. It's the same. We're all talking about the same thing. We're all talking about the shift of the Earth and the shift of humanity. So then there's been a lot of talk about how is that going to happen? And what's going to happen to Earth? And what's going to happen to people while this is happening? And I've been trying to find all the ones that say that it's not going to be real messed up. That it's just going to be like a gradual thing. People won't even really realize that it's just going to be like, now some people are here, now some people aren't here. But that's not what Ra is saying. Ra is saying it's not going to be habitable. And that's really difficult for me to be okay with. Because that's gotta mean, you know, and maybe there's potentiation for things that I don't understand or realize, or even know that there's possibilities of. But to me, that means that there's going to be some terrible, horrible things that happen, and we're not going to be able to live here for a long time. It just says for some space-time, but we know what that means, Ra. We know. We're not dumb. But in order for us to be living in 4D, that has to happen. And you know, I hate getting into the doomsday, doom and gloom side of this. On the other hand, I have to realize, and I think that one of the people that I hear say this often, and it really helps, is Preston Dennett. If you don't know who Preston Dennett is, he's a friend of the Witching Hours podcast. He will remind us when the doom and gloom stuff comes up within his own podcast, The Light Gate, that it's all right. Because no matter what happens to the Earth, or no matter what happens to humanity, this isn't the end-all be-all anyway. We have to remember that. We're all just here having an experience, and this isn't who we really are and what we really are. So we're just going to go back to source and back to the other side, and where that's actually the real existence. And then when the 4D/5D, if you guys really want to do 5D, but we're talking about Ra here, so I'm going to say 4D. When the 4D world is ready, then we'll just be reincarnated in the new bodies that can function in the 4D. And I'll tell you what, from this raw material, 4D sounds a hell of a lot better. You can see I wrote, ugh. Let's read the next paragraph. Meanwhile, there is another sphere congruent to a great extent with yellow ray forming. This 4th density sphere coexists with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It is of a denser nature due to the rotational core atomic aspects of this material, We have discussed this subject with you. Footnote says it's been discussed in session 27, question 16, session 40, question 5, and session 62, questions 27 through 29. And then I have a little question here, but I wonder if I need to read the rest of this paragraph, the next paragraph. The fourth density entities which incarnate at this space-time are fourth density in the view of experience, but are incarnating in less dense vehicles due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of the fourth density upon this planet. My question was, how can it coexist and not coexist? But now that I'm reading it again, I understand that there are entities that are being born into this space-time that are fourth density, but because the physical bodies that they're being reincarnated into are still of a 3D nature, they just want to be here to help it happen. Now, okay, so in some woo-woo circles, people have been talking about that's happening right now in 2025, that children are being born that are the ones that are supposed to be more 4D, and they're coming into the world to help us shift. And that's probably true. But this is happening in 1981. So this has been happening for a really long time, that 4D energies have been being born into the world to try to help it shift. And another reference to Edgar Cayce, I saw my mom yesterday because it's 4th of July. My mom had been watching a show about Edgar Cayce, and one of the things that they said about what he said in the show was that he was talking about how in the 1980s, many people would be born that would help bring about a spiritual awakening. So once again, that Edgar Cayce and raw information is correlating to, that's not there. Then, it's like there's secret synchronicities there. They're not for no reason. And remember, I was being born in the 2 months and 4 days. And here I am spending my 40s doing a whole lot of woo-woo stuff, as so many of us are, and finding our spirituality, especially after COVID. It's very, very interesting. Let's continue. You may note that fourth density entities have a great abundance of compassion. Because they're living in the fifth ray energy, not the fourth. So now I got it messed up. They're living in the fourth energy, the 4D, the green ray energy, the fourth chakra energy, the heart-centered energy. I said 5, but I didn't mean to. Now, we're on to Dawn's question. Now at present, we have in third density incarnation on this plane those third density entities of the planet Earth who have been here for some number of incarnations, who will graduate in the three-way split, either positive polarity remaining for fourth density energy experience on this plane, the negative polarity harvestable going to another planet, and the rest unharvestable third density going to another third density planet. In addition to these entities, I'm assuming that we have already some entities harvestable from other third density planets who have come here and incarnated in third density form to make the transition with this planet into fourth density plus wanderers, which a wanderer is someone who's a higher level density entity who comes to, in our case, Earth, to try to help. But because they're taking a risk, they're taking a gamble doing that, because they might slide back and forget all about who they are and then have some shit karma and have to redo stuff. So they're some major risk takers, these wanderers. But Don wants to know if what he's saying is correct. Ross says this is correct, except we may note a small point. The positively oriented harvestable entities will remain in this planetary influence, but not upon this plane. So what the hell does that mean? I guess it's not in 3D. They're going to remain in the planetary influence of Earth, but not in the three-dimensional plane. It'll be in the 4D. So to recap a little bit, all of what Don said there is he was assuming that because we're talking about positive polarity, which is people that are service to others, versus the negative polarity, which is the service to self. So that's what he's talking about there. So Don is saying he's thinking from what Ra has said that the positive polarity people that were already 4D are going to continue to be here, and that the people that are ready to be harvested up to the next level but they're negative are going to have to go somewhere else. But there's also entities from other planets that were ready to move from 3 to 4D will also come here to have that experience. And Ra said all of that was correct. So all of you starseed people, you feel like you came from somewhere else. Maybe that's why you're here. Next question. I think you said there are 6 million wanderers approximately. Am I correct in that memory? That is approximately correct. There is some excess to that amount. So there's a little footnote here. It says the correct number in 1981 was somewhat in excess of 60 million. So it's supposed to be 60 million, not 600 million. In 1981, there's 60 million souls upon the earth that were higher density energies trying to help the earth move up. That's a lot. Don asked, does this number indicate the harvestable third density who are coming to this planet for the fourth density experience? No, because a wanderer is not someone who's third density. A wanderer is someone who's higher up. Ra didn't say that. I'm saying that. Don asked, approximately how many are there now who have come from other planets who are third density harvestable for fourth density experience? And Ra says, this is a recent phenomenon, and the number is not yet in excess of 35,000 entities. So in 1981, there's 35,000 entities who came from other places in the Great Creation who were ready to move up to 4D. So I imagine in 2025 that number is increased significantly. That would be a good Ra question for when I channel Ra. Somebody write it down. Put it in the Ra question category in the Discord channel. How many third density entities have come from other places in the universe to move up to 4D now? That's an excellent question. Now these entities incarnate into a third density vibration body. This is Don asking a question. I'm trying to understand how this transition takes place from third to fourth density. I will take the example of one of these entities of which we are speaking, who is now in a third density body. He will grow older, and then will it be necessary that he die from the third density physical body and reincarnate in a fourth density body for that transition? Excellent question, Don. Ra says these entities are those incarnating with what you may call a double body in activation. This gets even more confusing. So hold on to your hats. It will be noted that the entities birthing these fourth density entities experience a great feeling of the connection and the use of spiritual energy during pregnancy. This is due to the necessity for manifesting the double body. So what the hell is the double body? Let's keep going. This transitional body is one which will be able to appreciate fourth density vibratory complexes as the in-streaming increases without the accompanying disruption of the third density body. If a third density entity were electrically aware of the fourth density in full, the third density electrical field would fail due to incompatibilities. Shit don't work. Otherwise, shit don't work. So these people that are being born into the world to be ready for fourth density are being born with a double body activation, which I think really, because of the word activation, it makes me feel like it's not always there and it's not always working, but it's available to use should the person need to use it. And the in-streaming is that fourth density energy coming in to connect with the energy of the person in their mind, body, spirit complex on the earth. So what Ra's saying is that if it was just a third density energy and a third density body without this double activation, shit won't work. If it tries, then it just, and it's not going to work, which to me makes a lot of sense. Why there's more and more and more and more people on the earth right now who are able to connect to spirit more deeply, who are able to channel information, right? Doesn't that all just, that's why we're reading these books, people. Because the things it's like all those little puzzle pieces of things that you're just like, what the hell and how the hell, they just fall into place. When you read this information, the puzzle pieces just fall right into place. Why? Well, how come all of a sudden there's so many people that can channel information? How come there's so many people now that can talk to spirit, that are listening to their higher selves, that are having awakenings? Because all the way still from way back then, we can go back probably to the 60s, 70s, like who knows how long, because there's so many people that are being born into that time period of what they're talking about in 1981. And then it's just going to increase over time. And now here we are in 2025 with who knows how many people that have been born into these double activated bodies, ready to be part of 4D. And no, it's no damn wonder that there's so many more people that are having an awakenings and that are able to connect with the higher information. But I didn't finish this answer. To answer your query about death, these entities will die according to the third density necessities. So to me, it sounds like, and I'm not really sure, and maybe there needed to be another question here. Maybe there is, and I don't remember because it's been so long since I read this the first time. It seems like anyone who was just born into a third density body without this double activation is going to have to pass on, because their physical body isn't going to work in the fourth density. But I wonder what that means about the people who have the double body activation. Does that still mean that they also have to pass on because that body won't work all the way right in 4D? And that we're having this transitionary period so that we can connect with fourth density energy to bring it upon the earth, but we still can't function in a 4D because we're not all the way 4D? I mean, I don't know. Next question. You were saying that for the transition from third to fourth density, for one of the entities with double activated bodies, in order to make the transition, the third density body will go through the process of death. Is that correct? The third and fourth combination. Oh, they are talking about it right here. Yay. Thank you, Don and Ra. The third and fourth combination density bodies will die according to the necessity of the third density mind, body, spirit complex distortions. No! Son of a bitch. We may have responded to the heart of your questioning by noting that the purpose of such combined activation of mind, body, spirit complexes is such entities to some extent consciously are aware of those fourth density understandings, which third density is unable to remember due to the forgetting. So more people remembering more stuff about themselves that is more than just who they are in this earthly plane. Thus, fourth density experience may begin with the added activation to an entity oriented toward service to others of dwelling in a troubled third density environment and offering its love and compassion, which I think is exactly what's happening. It's been happening since 1980, 70, whatever. And it's happening at a greater and greater rate. all of these fourth density energies that are living amongst the three-dimensional energies are helping with their love and compassion to bring us up. So remember that as we are going through more and more troubled times in our world. But if you feel like you are one of these double activated people, or that you're one of the wanderers, or that you're one of those entities that have come from the great beyond, out in the outer space realm somewhere, who came here because it's time for you to move up to fourth density too. Just remember, one of the reasons we're all here experiencing the shitstorm is so that we can offer love and compassion to make sure that it really moves up to 4D. Or 5D if that's what you really want to think. Just remember, that's what we're doing. That's one of our purposes in this experience of experiencing the shithole time. Not that there hasn't been a lot of shithole times of Earth, but the great shift, the great shithole shift of the Earth. Let's keep going. This video is already getting really long because I keep talking. We have a lot more ways to go. Would the purpose in transitioning to Earth prior to the complete changeover be for the experience to be gained here during the harvesting process? Correct. These entities are not wanderers in the sense that this planetary sphere is their fourth density home planet. However, the experience of this service is earned only by those harvested third density entities which have demonstrated a great deal of orientation towards service to others. It is a privilege to be allowed this early in incarnation, as there is much experiential catalyst in service to other selves at this harvesting. Because there's so many awful, horrible things happening in the world, and the more awful, horrible things that happen, the greater experience we can gain when we go against it and we help and serve others in the times when it's the most difficult. We gain so much more experience and karma when we help in the most difficult of times. Let that sink in for a minute. Then Don asks, there are many children now who demonstrate the ability to bend metal mentally, which is a fourth density phenomenon. Would most of these children then be this type of entity of which we speak? I don't understand what the goddamn fascination with bending spoons and shit was back then. Come on. I mean, that's a pretty cool trick if you can bend metal with your mind. But seriously? Of all the things that people can do, that's the thing that people were really excited about in 1981 was bending some spoons? But Ross said that's correct. Is the reason that they can do this and the fifth and sixth density wanderers who are here cannot do it is the fact that they have fourth density body and activation? Ross says that's correct. Wanderers are third density activated in mind, body, and spirit and are subject to the forgetting, which can only be penetrated with disciplined meditation and working. So even wanderers are being born into that third density body and not necessarily into the double body activated bodies. For the double activated bodies, they got to forget to. Don asks, I'm assuming that the reason for this is, first, since the entities of harvestable third density who have very recently come here, they're coming here late enough so that they will not affect the polarization through their teachings. They are not infringing on the first distortion, which is the law of free will, because they are children now, and they won't be old enough to really affect any of the polarization until the transition as well into transition. That's a fun sentence. However, the wanderers who come here and are older and have a greater ability to affect polarization must do that affecting as a function of their ability to penetrate the forgetting process in order to be within the first distortion. Is that correct? It's quite correct. So what the hell did Don just ask? You might be asking yourself, what the hell did he just, what the hell? What did he just ask? He's saying That the reason why there's so many wanderers there in 1981 is because they needed to be adults at that time so that they could penetrate their forgetting to help with the most transition, to help with what was needed at that time. And that the children that were being born at that time were coming in specifically at that time so that they would be able to help more in a different way as it was more, there was more transition happening, which is right now, people. It's right now. Next question. It would seem to me that some of the harvestable third density entities are, however, relatively old, since I know of some individuals who can bend metal. Seriously, Don? Jeez Louise. The damn spoons. Who are over 50 years old, and some are over 30. How many people are bending spoons in 1981? Would there be... they're just sitting around in circles, watching each other bend spoons with their mind. Would there be other entities who can bend metal for other reasons than having tool-activated bodies? Ross says that's correct. An entity who by accident or by careful design penetrates intelligent energies gateway may be used the shaping powers of this energy. It doesn't have to be goddamn spoons. Okay, John says. Now, as this transition continues into fourth density activation, in order to inhabit the fourth density sphere, it will be necessary for all third density physical bodies to go through the process of death. Is that correct? Correct. We're all going to have to die. Son of a bitch! I hate that. I hate even saying it. I hate even thinking it. But then I have to go back and think. Preston said, it doesn't really matter because we're all... This is temporary, illusionary experience. This isn't the real deal. All right, next. Now, are there any inhabitants at this time of the fourth density sphere who have already gone through the process? Is it now being populated? This is correct only in a very recent past. Don says, I would assume this population is from other planets since the harvesting has not occurred yet on this planet. Is it from planets where the harvesting has already occurred? And Ross says that's correct. So these fourth density energies that are coming into these double activated bodies are from other places. So all of you people that don't feel like you fit here and that Earth is like, what the hell? And I don't understand humans and this feels weird and this doesn't seem right. And why am I here and I want to go home? They're talking about you. Then are these entities visible to us? Could I see one of them? Would he walk upon our surface? These entities are... Ross says we discussed this. These entities are in dual bodies at this time. Yes. They're in human bodies that look three-dimensional, that look like they're 3D, but they're double activated. So they can in-stream that fourth density energy. And then Don says, sorry, I'm so stupid on this. But this particular concept is very difficult for me to understand. It's something I'm afraid requires some rather dumb questions on my part to fully understand. I don't think I'll ever really understand. But then there's some inaudible thing here. But inaudible, even get a grasp on it. And I wrote me too, Don. So even though you're asking dumb questions about spoons, this is very hard to understand. Then, as the fourth density sphere is activated, there is heat energy being generated. I assume this heat energy is generated in the third density sphere only. Is this correct? Ross says this is quite correct. The experiential distortions of the dimension are discrete. Heat activated. Heat energy is being generated. Global warming? Heh. Next question. Then at some point in the future, the fourth density sphere will be fully activated. What's the difference between full activation and partial activation of this sphere? Great question, Don. At this time, the cosmic influxes are conductive to true color green core particles being formed in materialness nature, thus being formed. However, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environments at this time, necessitating the birthing of transitional mind-body-spirit complexes, types of energy distortions, the double activated body. At full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and inhabitable upon its own. And the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate the full In full, the fourth density planetary environment. At this nexus, the Greenway environment exists to a far greater extent in time-space than in space-time. So there's going to be a whole new vehicle for us to be in. I wonder if it'll continue to be a human, specifically human, or if it'll be a humanoid, or if it'll be something totally different. There's another great raw question. Put it in the list. Next question. Can you describe the difference that you are speaking of with respect to time, space, and space-time? Excellent question, Don. I was thinking the same thing. For the sake of your understanding, we'll use the working definitions of inner planes. There's a great deal of subtlety invested in these sound vibration complexes, but by itself will perhaps fulfill your present need. And then, but it doesn't say anything else. Then Don says, I will make this statement, and you correct me. What we have is, as our planet is spiraled by the spiraling action of the entire major galaxy, as the big wheel of the sky turns and our planetary system spirals into the new position, the fourth density vibrations become more and more pronounced. These atomic core vibrations begin to create more and more completely the green, that is, the green core vibrations complete more and more completely the fourth density sphere, and the fourth density body complexes for inhabitation of the spheres is correct. Whew. Ross says it's partly correct. To be corrected is the concept of the creation of green ray density body complexes. This creation will be gradual and take place beginning with your third density type of physical vehicle. Oh, there's a little bit of my answer. And though the means of bisexual reproduction become by evolutionary process the fourth density body complexes. So what Ra means there is that it's going to take a long ass time, like we said. It's going to take some of your time space. It's going to take a lot of your time space, beginning with our human bodies, and then through reproduction of the male and female species, it will eventually change over to the fourth density body complex. So we're going to have some evolutionary shit happening, which I wonder if that's already been happening with this double activated body thing. Then Don asks, there are these entities of which we spoke, the third density harvestable, who have been transferred. Are they the ones who will then, by bisexual reproduction, create the fourth density complexes that are necessary? The influxes of true green energy complexes will more and more create the conditions in which the atomic structure of cells of bodily complexes is that the density of love, true love, the mind-body spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be, and to some extent are, those of whom you spoke, and as harvest is complete, the harvested entities of those planetary influence. So yeah, people that came here from other places, energies that came here from other places to be in human form, and then the ones that are going to harvest up to the fourth density. Is there a clock-like face, shall I say, associated with the entire major galaxy of many billions of stars, so that as it revolves, it carries all of these stars and planetary systems through transitions from density to density? Is that how it works? Ross says, you are perceptive. You may see a third dimensional clock face or spiral of endlessness, which is planned by the Logos for this purpose. So a Logos is just like, I don't know, in some ways I guess you could think of it as like a god or a demigod. Those words are very loaded. So don't start thinking about Maui from Moana, you know. But in a lot of similar ways, yes. So a Logos is so just, think back and imagine there's the source and there was only the source. And it was just this one conscious being. And it was real frickin' lonely, It was well, what am I going to do here? I've just been floating around in space and I'm consciously aware of things, but then it's, it's kind of dark out here, but then there's some light and then okay, now what? And then it's well, if I split off for myself, maybe I can experience something different. So then it splits off. Pieces start breaking off and they have their own consciousness. And then they realize that they can have a different consciousness. And then eventually they create such completely different consciousnesses. So then there's these chunks of these different consciousnesses out there, and they decide that they want to create stuff. So then they start creating things, and they start creating rules for things. So that's one of these, that's what they're talking about, these logoses. It's like a part of creation that's not, living in human form or any other kind of form. It's just out there in space and making stuff. Don says, I understand that the Logos did not plan for the heating effect that occurred in the third density transition to the fourth. Is that correct? Ross says, that is correct, except for the condition of free will, which is, of course, planned by the Logos, as it itself is a creation of free will. In this climate, an infinity of events or conditions may occur. They cannot be said to be planned by the Logos, but can be said to have been freely allowed. So they set up a place, they set up the rules of that place, they set up some conditions of that place, and then there's more bits that break off, and they go and they live in that place, and then they experience that place, and then they have every bit of the source has free will. So all of those bits that are doing their own thing cause conditions and distortions and other things to happen that maybe weren't always foreseeable. So this global warming issue wasn't something they planned. It would seem to me that the heating effect that takes place on the planet is analogous to a disease in the body and would have as a root cause the same or analogous mental configuration. Is that correct? Ross says this is correct, except the spiritual configuration as well as mental biases of your people has been responsible for these distortions of the body complex of your planetary spheres. So yes, it is partly our fault. Our mental biases have been responsible for these distortions. There's a 39-second pause. Don's probably like, son of a bitch. Next question. When the third density goes out of activation and into potentiation, that will leave us with a planet that is first, second, and fourth density. At that time, there will be no activated third density vibrations on the planet. Am I correct in assuming that all third density vibrations on this planet now are those vibrations that compose the bodily complexes of entities such as us, and that there is the sum total of third density vibrations on the planet at this time? Ross says this has got to be the last question, man. And the instrument has enough energy left to transfer, but there is discomfort. So they don't want to deplete her energy. So we may say that this instrument seems in better configuration despite the attack than previous workings. But to answer your query, this is incorrect only in that in addition to the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density, there are the artifacts, thought forms, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. This is third density. So that's another one of those questions where it's like, what the hell did Don just ask? So he's saying that right now, because we're a third density planet with third density bodies, that there's only first, second, and third density energies upon the planet, with the potential for fourth. That's where we're at. But when it becomes a fourth density planet, then it's first, second, and fourth density energies on the planet with the potential for third, is what he's asking. And then Ra is saying that that's pretty much correct, except that third density has also created artifacts, thought forms, and feelings that are also third density. So I feel like we could have gone up more on what the hell that meant. I'm not sure if Dawn asks any more questions about that later because, like I said, it's been so long since I read this. But then they ask, if they can improve Carla's channeling or her, they always ask in with that. And Ross says all's well. And that's the end of session 63. So to recap what was in session 63, we learn a little bit more about Carla's issues with the psychic attack and her physical weaknesses and why it's causing problems. We learn about vital energy. We learn a little bit more about space, time, space, And then the majority of session 63 is talking about the shift and why entities are here for the shift and what they're supposed to be doing for the shift, and just so much information about the shift to the next density or dimension, which I found very fascinating considering we are so deep in it right now. There's a lot of things in it that were disheartening, discouraging, and scary. There's a lot of things in it that were important, amazing, miraculous in some way, and we just have to remember that so many of us are here right now to help awaken and to help others get through a very difficult time with love and compassion, so that at some point in the future of our future, we can be living in a fourth dimensional planet, in fourth dimensional bodies, or you can say 5D, whatever, that is green ray activated. It's all about love, and all those negative and all the negatively polarized people that are all about self, they have to go somewhere else. They won't be allowed to be here anymore. Can you imagine living in a world where people aren't selfish, greedy assholes and keeping people enslaved to a system that doesn't allow us time for love, the love of all the things that we enjoy with each other and our creative processes? That sounds like a really damn good experience to me. I'm ready for it. And if it means we have to go through global warming and catastrophes and everybody dying in order for us to be reincarnated onto this amazing planet that we already love in a different way, then I guess that's all right with me. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. If this is your first time coming across the raw information, check out all of my previous raw videos. Whether you go back and watch all of the original book series sessions, or you start with this one, or if you're already familiar with the raw contact and the raw contact information, then I hope that you enjoyed my interpretation of it. Another thing about these videos is that I really like for it to be a discussion. So if you have anything that you want to discuss about this information, please let's have a conversation about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on it, or if you have questions or concerns or comments about this material, let's have that conversation. And also, it would be interesting to know, where do you think that you lie within those entities that Dawn was asking about and Ra was talking about in this session? Where do you think you lie? Are you just a 3D person and a 3 with a 3D energy? If you're watching this, probably not. Are you a 4D energy who has come from some other planet out there in the universe, who's ready to be harvested up to a fourth dimensional planet? And you're like, I don't know what the hell's happening here. I don't fit in, but I know I'm supposed to be doing something good to help other people. Is that you? Are you a starseed from some other place? Are you a wanderer that perhaps remembers or doesn't remember that you're a wanderer? Someone that's 5th or 6th density energy who's like just out of this world and definitely feels like you are from somewhere else and you have all this wisdom, but you're not sure where it came from. Or maybe you do remember that you are something much greater than you really are. So let me know in the comments. What do you think you are? Where do you think you fit in this? Because we're living in these times right now. For me, I don't know, because I think, well, I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is, so I'll just try to share my mind super fast. I think that I've been on Earth for a super really long time. I may have had lives in other places at some point, but for the most part, I think I've been here. I think I was here the last time the Earth was destroyed, when we were supposed to move up to 40, but nobody had their shit together. I've recently seen and felt some things that made me feel like that was true. And I definitely came back because I'm ready to fucking move up. I've been waiting millennia of our time space to move up to 4D, and I'm here, and I've been putting in the work, and I'm going to continue putting in the work with love and compassion so that we can move the F up. Get your poop in a pile, people. We're moving. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye!